With the NFL awards ceremony coming up this Thursday, New England Patriots quarterback Drake May and LA Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford are the two MVP favorites. Regardless who wins the award between the two, it'll be the 13th season in a row that a quarterback has won the league's MVP. The last time we saw an MVP award go to a non-quarterback was in 2012 with Adrian Peterson. Winning the MVP award as a skilled player or as a defensive player is already a very hard feat, and with the current NFL landscape, is it possible to ever see a player that's not a quarterback win the MVP award again? Why has this award become so quarterback driven? To understand why this has become more of a quarterback-centric award, we have to go back to the 2000s. We started to see the NFL make rule changes on how defenses can play. There started to be less physical hits on players, you couldn't tackle players in certain ways, and most importantly, they started to protect the quarterback a lot more. These new rule changes started to favor the offense. It was easier for coaches to draw up big plays on offense. Teams started having an easier time attacking the middle of the field, which in previous eras was a lot harder to do. Rule changes came the analytics nerds. These guys were a big proponent on NFL offenses becoming more pass heavy because you were able to get more yards from the pass than from the run, statistically speaking. From these changes, we saw the quarterback have the ball in their hands more, and they were throwing it quite a lot more. And because of this, their passing yards and touchdowns started to increase. Teams are moving more towards the pass than the run. In 2025, there was only one team that had more running plays than passing plays, which was the Baltimore Ravens, versus in 2005, there were 7 teams that ran more than they passed. NFL teams no longer use a bell cow running back to lead their offense. There's no team in the NFL that has a guy like a Shaun Alexander or LaDainian Tomlinson who's going to give them 25 plus touchdowns in the season. Because running backs aren't getting the amount of touches on the ground that they used to, they're going to have to do a lot in the passing game like a Christian McCaffrey did in 2023, or what Todd Gurley did in 2017. Unless a running back has an all-time season where they have 1,500 rushing yards and 1,500 receiving yards, it doesn't seem very likely for any running back to win the award anytime soon. Same thing can be said about wide receivers and tight ends, although they've never won league MVP. Normally, a great wide receiver season gets overshadowed by the success of the quarterback. Just ask Randy Moss in 2007. Even if you are the focal point in the offense like Cooper Kupp in 2021 where you're the Triple Crown winner, you're still most likely to get overshadowed by a quarterback who had a 40 touchdown season like Aaron Rodgers did. Everything that I said about skill players on offense, you can say the same thing about defensive players as well. There hasn't even been a defensive player that has won league MVP since 1986, which was Lawrence Taylor with the New York Giants. There was a real argument to be made in 2014 that J.J. Watt could have won the league MVP. He was very dominant that season. He was the best player in the league. But unfortunately, the Texans missed the playoffs, and that really hurt his chances at winning the award. Maybe there is a situation where Myles Garrett had a chance at being in the MVP conversation, breaking the NFL record with most sacks in the season. But the Browns didn't make the playoffs either. And if it was any other season, there's a good chance Aaron Donald would have won the league MVP. But Patrick Mahomes had a 50 touchdown, 5,000 yard season, and he was only the second quarterback in the NFL history to do that. Aaron Donald's another good example of a defensive player that had a real strong chance at winning the league MVP. Getting 20.5 sacks as a defensive tackle is very impressive. They're just going to give it to the quarterback over the defensive player in that situation, which was a real bummer because that was just a phenomenal season. But this is going back to what I was saying earlier, where if you're a skill player that has a phenomenal season, or if you're a defensive player that has a great season, you're always going to be overlooked by the quarterback. The NFL is a quarterback-driven league. In the modern NFL, you only go as far as your quarterback can take you. Bad quarterback play can ruin a great season that a team had. Quarterbacks are the face of the NFL franchise, they're the highest paid players, and they're the most talked about players in the media. For these reasons, they are always going to be the first players to be talked about in any MVP race. And because of this, it's why the Offensive Player of the Year award and the Defensive Player of the Year award are so important to skilled players and defensive players. It's their version of the MVP because they know they'll never win the MVP award. These awards give these players a chance at getting some hardware that they otherwise would not get. In a perfect world, it would be nice to see skilled players and defensive players have a real chance at winning the MVP. Because voters value the quarterback position above anything else, it's just going to be very hard for any player besides them to win the award.